Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Paul Thompson, and I am the father of the stunningly beautiful Emily Thompson, the bride. And on behalf of my wife, Mary, and Joe and Ann Hodes, and of course, Emily and Henry Hodes, we welcome you all. Glad you're here. I also want to say that I appreciate and want to thank Henry's parents, Joe and Ann, for the great evening we had last night at the rehearsal dinner. That was a exhibition of family love, and I just want to acknowledge Joe and Ann and say thank you for a great evening. Thank you. You know, this has been, Henry and Emily, as they've said, are kind of a match made in heaven. And I read in the program today for the first time that, I'm not sure which one of them said this, but maybe they did it together, but that a lot of us knew about this before they recognized that this was going to happen, and themselves. And so I think that might be true. But I will say that since it happened last August, the very first night, Joe and Ann invited us to their home. We had a great evening at their home to celebrate the engagement. And again, I just want to say thank you to Joe and Ann Hodes. They have been nothing but awesome, welcoming, loving people, and they have been so great to my daughter and welcomed her into their family, and I want to say thank you for that as well. So you'll hear from me a little bit later more, and maybe other toasts too. But now is time to, if I might, introduce Archbishop Joseph Naumann to say the prayer so that we can begin our dinner this evening. So, Archbishop Naumann.
Thank you. Thanks. That's the first time I had background music for the meal blessing, so thank you. So this whole evening's been an evening, I think, anointed in prayer and with faith and family. So we begin our celebration here tonight in the name of the Father and the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. And Lord, we thank you for all the blessings of this day for these two incredible families. We thank you for calling Henry and Emily to this vocation of Christian marriage. You performed your first miracle at a wedding celebration. And tonight, make us conscious of the many miracles around us. We ask you to bless this food that comes from your hand. Bless our feasting and our dancing. May it all be for your glory. We pray, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, which we're about to receive, from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
So, as you might, those that know me realize that I'm going to get up and speak again. I forgot to say one last thing, and I wanted to say this. First of all, welcome to all of you, and thank you. So many people have come from West Coast, East Coast, to be with us tonight and celebrate this great union. I have to acknowledge one particular person that has come a long way, and not only from a standpoint of geography, but just a place in her life which is very difficult. 7 weeks ago, Bailey Lynch Stryker was in a accident, a bicycle accident. She was in critical condition. We prayed, frankly, just that she'd be okay, that she would survive. She had multiple injuries. She is a bridesmaid of my daughter, Emily. She's been a close friend of Emily for so many years. And tonight that she could be here with us tonight and actually walk down that beautiful long aisle of Our Lady of Perpetual Help Redemptorist Church was moving to me. It is a miracle in my mind that she's here with us this evening. She'd be embarrassed that I make this, even talk about this about her, but she's like a daughter to me. She's been with us so many years at St. Teresa's cross country. When I saw her, Mary and I both, we teared up, cried. I want this, it's truly a gift from God, a miracle from God that you're with us this evening. And I just say, thank you to God. Thank you for I don't say this too much to University of Michigan. I'm not a huge fan of University of Michigan, but the accident occurred in Ann Arbor, and the people of the University of Michigan, and which includes some of my family members, my brother Greg, who's there, but, their talented staff has got her with us tonight. I thank God for you. We're so glad you're here. Enjoy. We'll be back later. Thank you. Again, welcome. We're so thrilled that you all are here. Pardon me, I had to take notes. The over and under is 45 minutes on this. No. Yeah, take the over if you're smart, right? Under, okay. First of all, I'd like to thank my beautiful bride of 33 years for planning this entire event, Mary. Stand up, Mary. You gotta stand up. Yes. She's short. Yeah, that's what they say to me all the time, too. Stand up, Paul. I am standing. Mary and someone said earlier tonight, I married way over my head, and I'll, admit that freely. Mary and I were married in the same church that Henry and Emily were married in this evening, some 33 years ago. And in fact, we were married 12,131 days ago to the day. Thank you. Yes. To which my wife, when I told her that, she said, "Is that all? Really? It seems like I like a lot longer than that, but, yeah. Okay. Mary, thank you. Seriously, thank you to Mary for modeling what a great mother and wife should be to my 5 children. I love Mary. She's my very best friend, and she's been that for so many years, since day one that I met her in 1979. So thank you, Mary. I love you, honey. You're awesome. Thank you. The second thing I want to do is thank my other 4 children besides Emily, so 5 children plus Emily, but my 4 children who have supported Emily, loved Emily, and have been there for Emily for all these years. And I want them to stand as I acknowledge them, starting from the oldest, of course, PJ, and his fiancee, Keely. Where's Keely? There she is, over the right, yeah. And then Caroline and her husband, Brandon. And then Robbie, there he is. And last but not least, of course, my daughter, Meg. There she is. So, like I said, I'm sorry, but I may have to, consult my notes here a little bit, but I want to start with, I want to say, thank you to Joe and Ann for a great family, great evening last night. Thank you for making our family feel so welcomed as part of your family. Thank you. The second, and so continuing on the Hodes theme, I just want to talk about my new son-in-law, Henry Hodes, who I see up there. He's got such a great smile. Love that man. Henry, we're absolutely thrilled to have you part of our family. And it's interesting when people would, when you talk to people and they say, oh, I would say my daughter's getting married, the first question out of their mouth is, well, who's she getting married to? And of course I would say, Henry Hodes. And it was like, almost unanimously, people would say, oh my gosh, Henry Hodes? He is such an awesome guy. He is really a great guy. And spoiler alert for those who don't know Henry, he is. Henry is all that he's been billed. He's super, and we love you, Henry, and we're glad you're part of our family as well now. Yeah, glad the Hodes and the Thompsons are getting together. An example of who Henry is, he's such a thoughtful person. So he called me up, and when he was going to ask for my daughter's hand in marriage, he calls me up, and we meet at we determined a discreet place to meet. Because when you have a large family, or large families, it's very difficult to keep these things quiet. Right, Nick Hodes? Where are you, Nick Hodes? Okay, Nick's my class, so I'm giving a little trouble there. So we met over at the Raphael Hotel in the restaurant over there, and I kind of had a hunch what Henry was up to, and so I said, well, why don't you meet me at 5:15? I've got an event that I need to get to later, and so why don't you meet me down there at the Chaz restaurant? And so we did, and I had a drink ready for him just to kind of, make him feel a little bit more at ease. And so he was down there. When I got down there, he hadn't touched a sip of that drink. It was just, he hadn't even touched it. And so I said, Henry, I got this for you. He goes, well, I thought you got that for you. I'm like, no. And so we started visiting, and we chatted about a lot of different things. And Henry was a little bit nervous, I could tell. And I said, well, Henry, actually, I've got to go here pretty soon. Was there anything you really, you wanted to talk to me about? And he said, well, actually, there is. And Henry has such a big heart, and he's such an authentic person. What you see is what you get with Henry Hodes. He's just authentically a good person. And he says, well, I come here, I want to visit with you about asking for your daughter's hand in marriage. And with that, he pulls out a huge document. And it's like a PowerPoint presentation, multi-page, of like some kind of like a persuasive paper on why I should allow him to marry my daughter. And, but those of you who know Henry, and he is an authentic, genuine person, he must be Irish, because my mother used to say that, the Irish, our bladders are close to our eyes, And so Henry, he starts talking, he gets into this document, but he's becoming very emotional with me. And he's going down to the point where he can hardly even talk. And I'm like, okay, Henry, stop. It's obvious that you love my daughter, and that's all I care about. If you love my daughter and you'll honor my daughter, that's all I want, right? That's all I want. That's all I want. Now, I will say this. I'm very interested to hear the presentation at some point. So Henry, I'd like to see that. I don't know, maybe the first year anniversary or something like that. I'd like to see what, the logic that you had for Emily, because frankly, I'd like to see that. But anyway, okay. So the other thing that involved Henry was in 2008, Mary and I drove 10 hours and dropped our oldest daughter off at a college campus that we weren't frankly that familiar with. We had heard a lot about it, but we weren't familiar with it. No, there was a lot of pressure with it because there's a lot of great students and all that kind of thing. So we dropped Emily off at the University of Notre Dame. And I was, okay, let's go. Notre Dame, let's hear it for Go Irish, right? So I dropped her off, and that's kind of an unnerving experience for your first time. I think most dads, if not parents, would at least say, when you drop your daughter off at college, it's a bit unnerving. There's some trepidation involved with that, and you want to save her some of the experiences and hardships and all that, but you can't. They're adults. You got to let them learn and all that. But at the same time, you want somebody there to have your daughter's back. And I knew Henry Hodes, but I didn't know him that well. But I did know this. Henry Hodes came acclaimed at every level. He was like the class speaker of Rockers High School at the graduation. He was like their valedictorian. There was all these things that Henry Hodes, I heard so many great things about Henry Hodes. And so but the last person I met talked to, I should say, before Mary and I left dropped Emily off and went back to Kansas City was Henry Hodes. And I said, Henry, I want you to take care of my daughter these next 4 years. I want you to look out for her and watch over her because I'm going to be not here and I need somebody I can trust. And from all reports, you're that person. And he said, you bet, Mr. Thompson. Absolutely. Actually, he was like, absolutely, Mr. Thompson. So that's what happened. And, to Henry's credit, he did that. He looked after Emily. And I guess now, that was a 4-year requirement. This is going to be for the rest of your life. So I'm asking you not only to look after her, but to honor her and to love her for the rest of your life. And based upon what you've done in the past, I have every thought that you're going to be able to do that, every confidence that you're going to be able to do that, Henry, so thank you. Now I want to turn to a little bit about my daughter, Emily. And Emily is an amazing person. I didn't have this in my script for this evening, but there's been at least 2 people that said to me, I hope you talk about you go bye-bye home. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you want me to talk about that? And he was like, yeah. Well, when Emily was like a really small, more than a baby, but an adolescent, and she loved being Mary. Mary, her mother, she wanted to be around her mom, and her mom would give her, more or less what she needed and everything like that. And but when other people came in to play, these were people that were going to be in between getting what she wanted, so to speak. And so when she would see people like my brother-in-law, David Eccles, the imposing guy. I mean, anybody who knows David Eccles knows he's the nicest guy in the world. And yet, my daughter was like, you go bye-bye home, which means you go to HE double hockey sticks. Get the heck out of here. And so Emily was a little bit, difficult. And I guess I'll just say this, 7 months ago, I was in a similar position talking about my daughter Caroline, who was getting married, and you would think that as father of the bride, this would be, oh, no big deal. It's your second time at this. I bet this is going to be simple for you to do. And, I understand that logic, and yet it was harder for me to kind of come up with the ideas or what I was going to say about Emily. And I think that can be attributed to the fact that Emily and I, at least by all accounts of our family, are she looks like Mary on the outside, but apparently she's a lot like me on the inside. And Henry, that should be very concerning to you. That should scare you a lot that she might be like me on the inside, because, spend a day with Mary and let her tell you about that, how that's been for 33 years. But she's, the difficulty is in talking about Emily, for me, when I talk about my characteristics, not attributes, but characteristics, for me, there's so many great friends of mine here, and I appreciate everybody being here. Those who have known me for many years know that I have a lot of, characteristics that are what I would call character flaws more than they are, something that's good. Somehow Emily has parlayed those things, for the most part, into those characteristics in the good. But Emily and I are so much alike. We're like, think of batteries, a Duracell battery with, the two positive sides of a battery. You can't put those together. It just doesn't work. And, when I think Emily was 3 or 4 years old, we were at Wade's restaurant, and I was trying to, kind of get her to learn to behave, in a restaurant. And my deal was, look, if you don't behave, you're out. We're going to take you out. So Emily wasn't behaving, and so, Sunday morning brunch, out we go. And Emily, we're not going back until you behave. Okay, we go back. The second time, out we go. She's not behaving. A third time, she's not behaving. So out we go. And, that girl, she's so headstrong that neither she nor I ate breakfast that morning. And we were just like done. So, that's the one thing about Emily is the double-edged sword is she is headstrong. But I'll come back to that in a second and tell you why that can be such a great thing too. Henry, you're now officially the main man in her life. I used to be. You've taken that role. And so I want to give you a couple things to be aware of, or at least to keep in mind. As I said, Emily's been very strong-willed. And because of the things like I just talked about, Mary went to my mother, who was, a mother of 11 children. So she had some wisdom in raising kids. And she went to Mary went to my mom, Jeannie Thompson, and said, Emily, oh my gosh, Jeannie, tell me what I can do about her. She's really, the strong-willed person. And my mom told Mary, Emily's not hard-headed. She's just high-spirited. And if you can direct her in the right direction, all you got to do is direct her in the right direction, and she'll be great. And so, Henry, good luck with that. Yeah, get her in the right direction. Emily, and this is something that probably is a little bit like me, she's very passionate about things, and she's very loyal to her friends, her family, her schools, and her community. And I know Henry is too. And this is the beautiful thing about Henry and Emily. They're big into community, and they really support and want to be part of community. But just to acknowledge, if you play along with me for a second here, about the community aspect, I'd like to hear little shout-outs. Come on, now. So this is shout-outs from, if Henry and Emily's communities. If you are a member of the Hodes or Fitzgerald family, let me hear it from you. Good. Yes, Billy Hodes, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you're a member of the Thompson or Bleish family, let me hear from you. Nice. Okay. And if you went to visitation or nativity grade school, let me hear from you. Awesome. How about St. Teresa's Academy or Rockhurst High School? Love it. And further, kind of into their volunteer part, how about Camp Tickawitha or the Upper Room? Anyone? Excellent. Now, how about the University of Notre Dame or Catholic University of America? And finally, St. James Academy or Swope Park Corridor. Anybody involved with those? Yes. And I think I meant, did I say Camp Tickawitha? Okay, good. I don't want to leave that out. Archbishop is sitting right there. I cannot leave Camp Tickawitha out. Okay. Okay, so I said, as I said, Emily loves her team. She's loyal. She's high-spirited. She's a leader. She gets people riled up. And so Emily and I made a trip on 2 separate occasions up to the Big House in Ann Arbor. Yeah, here's my family right here from Michigan. We went up to the Big House for two games. Was it freshman and junior or sophomore? Sophomore and senior year. And, you know, Emily, oh my gosh, when she went to Notre Dame, let me tell you, Emily Thompson knew zero about football, nothing. And by the time she got to her end of her first year at Notre Dame, she knew everything about football. She was all into football. And so we went up there, and on 2 separate occasions, she gets up there, and we lost. Notre Dame lost the most heartbreaking, devastating losses, probably the history of the school, 2 years in a row to Michigan. Now, I will say, if they had replay, and Emily will back me up on this, on the punt return, we would have won one of those games. But anyway, didn't have it back then. However, it was devastating losses in the last minutes of the game. Awful losses. And Emily and I are walking out just totally dejected to our car, and these kind of unruly male on 2 separate occasions guys come out, and they run in front of Emily, and they turn around and they start screaming at Emily. Obviously, she's in their Notre Dame, regalia, so to speak. And they start taunting her. And I'm like, oh my God. Do you know what you've done? You, my friend, young man, have kicked a hornet's nest. And I cannot be responsible or accountable for what will happen to you from here on out, because my daughter is going to open a can of you-know-what on you like you have never experienced in your life. And you think I'm kidding, but I'm not. Last night we talked about it at the rehearsal dinner, and Jimmy Myers is just an example of this little cute girl that you saw at the wedding today, very pious, and she is, and she's a great inspiration to all of us. And yet, last night, Jimmy Myers, now where's Jimmy Myers? He's over there. Stand up, Jimmy. Stand up. Look at the size of that man. He's a big man. So Emily and Jimmy and their friends were playing a game that I guess it's kind of like somewhat between tug of war and dodgeball. It's a combination of that. And it got down to the end, and this is, like I think their senior year in high school or maybe in college, and they get down to the end, and it's just those two people, Jimmy and Emily. And they're fighting for this ball. Whoever grabs the ball and keeps the ball at the end wins. And Emily and Henry go to the ground. They're wrestling, and who comes up victorious? But Emily with the ball. And all of Henry's friends are like, "Oh my God, dude, are you?" Or not Henry's, Jimmy's friends. He's like, "Dude, are you kidding me? You let that girl beat you. How could you let that little girl beat you?" And as he said last night, but a lot of you don't know this story, but of course, we loved it because we did, it was like, yes, someone finally described Emily, what the deal is with her. It was like, Henry says, "Oh my God, she was like fighting an alligator on crack." I mean, it was like the most incredible thing I've ever seen. So that's a little bit about Emily. She is passionate. And she's a fighter. And she loves her school. She loves her associations. Do not cross her. Do not cross her. Now, Henry, the other thing is, tell you a little bit about that. Then there's all that running stuff, right? I mean, she's an incredible runner. And it all started with her cross-country experience at St. Teresa's Academy. She's developed a real passion for it. I made the huge mistake one time of introducing her to a friend of mine, a banker friend of mine, who had said that he had run a marathon in all 50 states. So guess what Emily wants to do? Yeah, she's going to run a marathon now in all 50 states. She's run 10. She's amazing. She actually won one. And I don't mean like won one for the women. She won the whole thing. She's just that headstrong. So, get ready. I think about this running, and when I was younger, I used to run. I never ran a marathon, maybe, and we did half marathons, maybe. But I just say this, that I think that running a marathon or half marathons, whatever, a marathon in Emily's case, what I found out in listening to Emily about her experiences that, and I know from my own, when you run, to have somebody run with to help you, all the miles that when you're running, some are harder than others. Some are easy, some are hard. You never know when they're going to come up. You think, it'll be the 20th mile. Well, maybe not necessarily. And but you know what? If you're running with someone who can encourage you and support you along the way, that makes the race go quicker. And I would say the same thing, if I know anything about marriage, and I don't know that I do, but to have somebody who is going to support you and run with you and help you along the way, that is so important. And I think there's a lot to be learned and a lot that that Emily will bring to the table, if you will, Henry, to help you with that. And that you two are running this race together, this marathon together, is going to be helpful to you. I'm winding up. Don't worry for you guys on the over and under. I'm winding up. It's been said that Emily has sometimes, some difficulty with time management skills, okay? Now, she's not always on time, they say. But in fairness to Emily, I think this is a byproduct of the fact, and was, again, talked about last night, that she's at a different level. Well, here's the different level. Emily tries to put 27 hours of activities into a 24-hour day. So, in fairness to Emily, her time management skills aren't, maybe not the best, but if you're trying to put 27 hours into a 24-hour day, I think you do pretty well, Emily. So I'm going to give you a heads up. I'm going to give you some, kudos on that, Em. And, but, Henry, stick with her. help her with the time management. But honestly, I think you're going to find out that she can be coachable. You just got to stay with her and help her through that. She'll be great. Okay, finally, so to speak. Yeah, let's hear it for finally, right? There we go. Now, when we talk about the time management skills, and you'll hear this a little bit, you'll hear this a little bit later. There's two songs that Emily and I have. One is we're going to dance to tonight. One is that is crazy. Emily is going to take you, Henry, to places you could never go without somebody who's really pushing you. She's a little cray-cray herself, as a matter of fact, but there's no harder worker than Emily. I've never known a person that works harder than Emily. And like this song in Jim Croce's songs, I Got a Name, the thing is this. He says, if you're going my way, I'll go with you. And that's Emily. You have to be on board with Emily, but I'm going to tell you, if you go with Emily, she will take you to higher places, and you'll accomplish more than you ever thought you could by yourself. She's just that person. And having known her for her 28 years, I can just tell you, Henry, she is going to take you to great places because she has a passion for excellence, and I promise you, you're going to enjoy the ride for the next X years. The last and best personality about Emily is her devotion to Mary, our mother, and God our Father. And although Emily is just one of three princesses that the good Lord has given me the privilege to borrow, so to speak, she knows that she is first and foremost a daughter to our Father in heaven, Christ our King. And it's in him that Emily puts all of her trust. And Henry, you and Emily share that great faith. And you both have absolute trust in the Lord. As we heard today in 1 Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind. 3 years ago, on the day that my father died, you came to Emily and said, you talked about your feelings for her. And you let her know about your feelings for her, and you wanted to start the relationship. And Emily was about to embark on her final year of graduate school at the Catholic University of America. And she said, Henry, this is not a good time, so to speak, but if you want to talk about this in a year from now, then maybe we can, let's talk about that then. And Henry, you patiently waited. Love is patient, love is kind. You patiently waited a year for Emily, and you trusted in God and his providence. And upon her return to Kansas City, you two started your journey together. Since then, I have observed myself multiple acts of kindness from you to my daughter. And I didn't say all those, I didn't acknowledge it every time it happened. But whether it be coming over to our house and helping her grade papers, or just being supportive of her, that kindness, trust me, I witnessed it, and I thank you for it. And I know going forward, you're going to continue to provide her that same thoughtfulness. And I just say to keep nurturing that love that you two have between you, and that love of our faith that you share, and keep that at the center of your lives. And if you do that, I think you're going to have a successful marriage. So in closing, I'll just say this. my advice for you is to remember, you and Emily, that marriage is not a 50-50 proposition. It's 100% partnership, and you have to enter it in that regard. Never go to bed upset with one another and mad with one another. Don't ever do that. The first time you do that gives you the license to do it a second time. So you can't do that. You have to go every day, end the day, happy with one another in some way, and maintain your sense of humor and your joy of life. So with that, let me ask everybody to raise your glasses. And toast to Henry and Emily. May their married life continue to glorify God and be good, full of good health, bring much joy, love, and happiness to both of you and to all the lives that you have touched so far and to all the lives that you'll touch in the future. Good luck, Emily.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together one more time for the unforgettable speech from our father of the bride, Paul, here. Next, we're gonna bring up Sean here to give a speech here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the brother of the groom, best man Sean.
Thanks, everyone. Wow, you guys. What an emotional night. First off, I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Thompson and my mom and my dad. They put a lot of heart and work into this wedding and this entire week, and they did an amazing job. So I just want to thank them for everything. Thank you. Now, some of you might not know who I am, and that's okay. When I first found out Henry was asking Emily to marry him, it dawned on me and the rest of my family that the Thompsons were one of the only other families in Kansas City that might be able to rival the Hodeses. So when I started writing this speech, I reached out to all of my siblings and I asked them who they think would win in a fight between the Thompsons and the Hodeses. Simple rules, all-out brawl, extended family included. Cecilia, our youngest, said 100% the Hodeses because we're much bigger than them. Not in size per se, but population. Jack responded similarly, stating that the Thompsons seemed a little more mentally weak, although they did have some good contenders. Again, these are Jack's words. Grace was the only traitor of the group who said the Thompsons might be able to beat us. She said because, quote unquote, they were in better shape than us. So I wrote it off as a personal problem. Finally, Joseph was the quickest to respond that we would easily destroy the Thompson family. But then he backtracked a little. He said, it depends on what we are fighting for. Control of Kansas City, we would easily win. But if it was for Henry's honor or something more trivial, they might have the edge. And as I was reading his response, wondering if I should even repeat the last part, something else came to mind. And it's something that my parents have always said, usually directed at me. And that is that on holidays and special occasions like this, tonight is not about myself. It's not about Joseph or Grace or Jack or Cecilia. It's not about the Hodai or the Tomps, which is what Robbie said is the plural of Thompson. But it's about Henry and Emily. So let's talk about Henry and Emily. Henry's always been first. He was the first child, the first sibling out of the country. He was the first to cry over losing his favorite green hat. First to throw a tantrum for getting silly putty stuck in his hair. First 8th grader to claim that he had a cure for cancer. First rocker student to win both senior awards. First to graduate. First to get heli lifted off of a mountain. He was the first. Now, you might be thinking, are you just using this first thing to bring up embarrassing stories about Henry's past? The answer is yes. But Henry really is our number one. He's our number one fan and our number one supporter. He's always there when you need him, and he drops everything for anyone in his life. He's dangerously optimistic and enthusiastic about life, and all he lives to do is make everyone around him happy. He usually succeeds. Which is why when I started to get to know Emily, I knew he'd find the person who would do the same for him. Together, they really are a powerhouse couple. They're both leaders in their families and their communities. They both sacrifice themselves for everyone around them, and they both greet every day with hope and compassion. So I'm just very glad that life has brought them together. I think they're the perfect couple. And Emily, I know I'm speaking for the rest of my family when I say we still don't believe that that's your natural hair color. And we are offering a 1-month grace period where you're allowed to tell us the truth. But either way, we are so grateful and blessed to gain you as a sister, and we are very excited to see the joy and happiness that you bring to our family. It's a short one. So now I'd like to end my speech with a quote from something that is very dear to my family's heart, The Office. It's a quote from Pam after she wins a Dundee Award for the widest sneakers. And I think it encapsulates what Henry and Emily are feeling right now. I've changed some of the words to make it make more context. So if everyone could raise their glass. We have a lot of people to thank for this. First off, our parents. We couldn't have done without them. Thank you. Let's give Michael Scott a round of applause for emceeing tonight. Because this is a lot harder than it looks. Also because Dwight too. Finally, we want to thank God. Because God gave us this wedding, and we feel God in this Chili's tonight. Woo! Thank you.
Perfect, man.
Give it up one more time for your best man, Sean, and brother of the groom, y'all. What a great way to clean that speech up, brother. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have your matron of honor and maid of honor, Caroline and Meg, both sisters of the bride, to come make a speech, folks. Give it up for Caroline and Meg.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Meg. We're Caroline's younger sisters. I'm the youngest. Emily's younger sisters. I'm the younger of the two, and the maid of honor tonight.
And I'm Caroline. I'm Emily's middle sister and the matron of honor. Of the honor. It's my honor to be the matron. And I am not too enthused about that. That's why it's so hard to spit out, actually, the matron of honor. But I will admit, it is important to distinguish who is available at events like these. And furthermore, who you're related to. So just, check the family trees tonight. But just to clarify, matron, Caroline, unavailable, made Meg available. So, yeah. I am a matron. I have been married for 8 long, beautiful months to my husband, Brandon. So not a ton of experience yet, but I do consider Brandon and myself to be somewhat of experts among other couples who've been married even longer than us. For instance, we are currently 5 months pregnant. Yeah. I know. It's pretty impressive considering the fact that you see other couples who have been married for a year or 2 years getting pregnant. Yeah, sometimes even more. And Brandon and we figured it out pretty much immediately. So I just say that, Emily and Henry, just to let you know that you're getting some really high quality advice here. I mean, we're really experts. But luckily for all of you, we're not going to be covering baby making tips tonight because, hello, how inappropriate would that be? I mean, the Hodes and Thompson families are the last people who need advice in that department.
And speaking of the Hodes and Thompson families, we do want to say thank you to Ann and Joe Hodes and our parents, Mary and Paul Thompson. Thank you guys so much for inviting us, because we know when a Hodes and a Thompson gets married, it gets a little crowded. So we're just happy to be here, as Henry likes to say. But seriously, thank you so much for planning such a beautiful evening for a beautiful couple. And I think the number of people here really is a testament to the kind of people that Emily and Henry are. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. Not so much giving them advice, because they'll receive plenty and have, but more just telling them and telling you who they are and why their marriage is going to be so successful.
Yeah, so who are Emily and Henry? We've heard a lot about them tonight, so I'll just summarize to say Emily is a chronic marathon runner who was once described as an alligator on crack, and then Henry is an aspiring politician who was recently life-flighted off the Pacific Coast Trail after trying to keep up with his brothers and dad. So together, these two seem a little bit more destined for a hospital than they do for married life. But actually, we think that's exactly what is going to make their marriage so successful, so strong. They're both crazy. And you have to be crazy to get married. You have to be really crazy to get married in the Catholic Church. I mean, if getting married is like running a marathon, as we heard tonight, getting married in the Catholic Church is like trying to run a marathon in every state. I mean, who would do that? It's insane. But first of all, in a Catholic marriage, you have to be open to life. So that's, yeah, to start. If you're not ready to accept a baby, you're not ready for marriage in the church. And so, I'm sorry, I lost my place. Pregnancy brain. Can I use that here? Is that a lifeline? Yeah, thank you. But we've seen the way, luckily, we've seen the way that Henry looks at babies and then looks at Emily and smiles. It's the same way that Brandon looks at puppies and then looks at me and smiles. So, Henry, we're not concerned in that department. We're good.
So marriage in the church also means, as Archbishop Naumann said, and my dad tonight said, it's total self-gift. And if you know Emily and Henry, you know they don't do anything halfway. So it's not a giving of yourself 50-50, and not when it's convenient or feels good. It's day in and day out. When it's not the easy choice, you choose to give 100% of yourself. And like I said, we know that that will not be a problem for Emily and Henry because they don't do anything halfway. They do everything fully. So in our household, there's a tradition that when a baby arrives home from the hospital, my parents sort of give that child a theme song of sorts. So Emily's started out as a very sweet song, Apron Strings. If you're not familiar with it, it's very tender. It's about a little child grasping onto her mother's apron strings. But as Emily's strong personality emerged as a child, that song was later changed to the 1980s hit, She Drives Me Crazy. And like Emily said, or Caroline said, Emily is a little bit crazy, but we love her for it. And as a kid, I definitely looked to Emily to see where, to anticipate what would be going on in each stage of my life. So when Emily was in high school, oftentimes I would find her passed out over a computer, slaving over homework. And I thought to myself, I'm gonna have so many all-nighters in high school and it's gonna be so intimidating. But somehow I made it through high school without ever doing that. And then, as young sisters do, I found myself perusing through Emily's bedroom and happened upon her filing cabinet of college applications. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so much work for me when I have to make an entire filing cabinet for all the colleges I'm applying to. That never happened. Never had to do that either. And then I think finally when Emily was about halfway through her college career at Notre Dame, it was when she received her first ever B that I realized, yeah, that's just Emily. That's not really gonna be my life. But that's what distinguishes Emily from everyone else. She has this relentless motivation, this drive that really makes her who she is. Makes her crazy, but it makes her crazy successful and lovable. And I know that among other reasons, Henry and Emily's marriage will never fail because Emily simply would never allow it.
And then you couple that with Henry's own persistence. We've heard a lot about his accolades, and we know just in their relationship story that he was very patient. He waited for Emily, and the truth is, Emily also prayed through discerning whether they were called to date. And that was absolutely at the forefront of their relationship from the very beginning. It was discernment, and they were in conversation with Christ. And that is still true today. In fact, I was driving down Ward Parkway with my sister recently, and she was reflecting on how much she loves weddings. And it doesn't matter if you get married in the Christian church or whatever, every wedding is a celebration of some truth about love and about marriage and partnership. And Emily said if she had to choose a theme or a message that they're conveying tonight to you all, to all of us, it would be this idea that we are called, we are invited into a relationship with each other. And there's so many things that they have in common that brought them together, but ultimately that was the most important thing, that they felt called to each other. So a relationship well discerned, coupled with their tenacity, their drive, crazy drive to succeed in all that you do, how can we not have complete faith in the marriage being born today?
So as we said, Henry and Emily do not do anything halfway. And after being Emily's sisters for over 20 years, we can definitely attest to the fact that she does not love halfway either. She always loves fully. So Henry, we know that she will love you fully and that you will love her fully in return. So if we can all raise a glass to Emily and Henry, may you always love each other like crazy.